24 minutes to 4 on BBC Radio Oxford. It's Friday, of course, and that means one thing. There are new movies that are out today, and that is when I call on expert help. Our movie critic Van Connor comes on the show every Friday to talk through a couple of the new movies that are out today. To let us know his honest opinion, whether they're worth seeing or not. Welcome back to the show, Van Connor.
Oh, a pleasure as always, Mr. Ball. You know that.
Yeah, absolutely. Has it been a busy week in movies this week?
It has been a busy... I'm not going to lie, it's been a busy week, and yet I still found time to see Guardians of the Galaxy 3 again, because it's clearly going to wind up being the best film of this year. Short of a Spider-Verse, it's going to be the best film of the year.
That is brilliant. I love the fact you've watched it twice already, and it's only been available for like a week and a half.
A week? Yeah. 10 days? I've got 10 days now, yeah.
All right, so two movies that are out today then. Which ones which are we going to look at?
Well, let's start with something in the realm of a documentary. Let's talk about Brainwashed, Sex Camera Power. A new movie that adapts Nina Menkez's, effectively a TED Talk for the screens. We actually get the TED Talk, and it's an examination using what's referred to as A-list films, so top tier, like contemporary. They go back about 100 years, obviously, but contemporary films included. A look through these films at, effectively, the male gaze and the perpetuation of the male gaze, not just in Hollywood, but how Hollywood has had that so baked into it that it's actually affected society. You and I have had this discussion before, but we get to see forensically how minute things like shot composition, the way that different genders are shot in films, has actually come to define how we associate the iconography of gender and how that sort of ripples through society. Have a listen to the clip. This will sort of set the tone for what they're selling here.
The male gaze is definitely normalized in our society.
Almost all of us are familiar with the phrase, the objectification of women. What exactly is an object and what is a subject?
It's the stuff that I think you thought, and maybe I thought, well, everybody knows this. It's in the ether. And so to name it and to show it is something that I believe can change the world.
I personally see a very clear connection between this visual language of cinema, employment discrimination against women.
It's a visual medium, Kayla.
And an environment of pervasive sexual harassment, abuse, and assault.
I mean, it is a fascinating subject, really, and I guess to actually see it depicted in front of you and explained really opens up your mind a bit towards it. You still there? Can't hear you. Have you got mute on? Yes, you have.
mute. Sorry, me and the mute. So there's a pull quote on the poster that says, "It will forever change how you see movies," and that is kind of on the money. Like I say, having it laid out for you, just like in the cold light of day, that look, this is how men are shot in films. This is how women are shot in films. And this has pretty much always been, well, not pretty much all, it has always been the case. And we're introduced, just to use one example, for instance, the opening of Lost in Translation, a movie incidentally written and directed by a woman, Sofia Coppola, no less, literal Hollywood royalty, introduces, for instance, Bill Murray through, a shot of his face. We get Scarlett Johansson, however, through a shot of her derriere. And that's an Oscar-winning movie. And seeing it laid out like that even in the utmost cases of, critically beloved art house cinema, this is still a very prevalent element of, not just contemporary filmmaking, but all filmmaking, and how this visual language needs to change because it's just become part of the fabric of this very, very problematic element of cinema, not so much just cinema, but society as well. And it's kind of harrowing. I know you and I come at this obviously from a place of very, obvious privilege, on the gender spectrum. And it's kind of a wake-up call that's very badly needed. This is something I do think everyone should see. It's a fascinating film in its own right, but also in terms of its importance and the things it has to say, I think this is absolutely brilliant. There's some top-tier talent in there. Catherine Hardwicke's in there, for instance. Maria Geiss, who's credited bizarrely as the director of the forgotten Sean Bean football drama When Saturday Comes, which amuses me to no end, because it's just nice to be reminded that movie existed 30 years ago. Wow, that's flown by. Back when Sharp used to play for Sheffield United. Like I say, really compelling, fascinating doc. It's out today in cinemas. It's called Brainwashed, Sex, Camera, Power. I missed it at the LFF, and I've been kicking myself for months. Evidently, rightly so. You get the chance to see this, do. And if you don't get the chance, race out and find the chance, because this is seriously worth the time.
It does sound like an education we could all do with, actually. Okay, on to the next biggie for the week. Book Club.
The biggie. Yeah, well, not just the book club, but the next chapter of the book club. And you know this of me. I'm a huge fan of the book club. I think it was 2018, I think was the last one. So it's been 5 years. And of course, the book club teamed up Jane Fonda, Diane Keaton, Candice Bergen, and Mary Steenburgen as four elder ladies who have been friends since college, who get together every now and again for a book club. They're all best mates. They've been so for like 50 years, I think, by the point the second movie begins. The first movie was about them rediscovering their sort of long dormant passions by having read 50 Shades of Grey. This time around, for the sequel, it's been 5 years. We're now post-pandemic. They've had a couple of years apart, shielding, etc., communicating only via Zoom, still doing the book club. And after having read The Alchemist, Jane Fonda's character gets engaged to her love interest in the first movie, the impossibly cool Don Johnson, who that man is like a fine wine. He's just going to get cooler with age. He and Andy Garcia, who's also in this movie as Diane Keaton's love interest, both just cooler with age. And they go away for Jane Fonda's bachelorette party. They decide to pick up a trip that they put aside decades earlier when Diane Keaton's character got pregnant. They go on a bachelorette party to Italy. So before you can say Sex and the City 2, we're doing the girl movie comedy sequel, but this time we're going on vacay. So I've got a clip for you. This is them having been locked up in a prison cell, forced to confront some of the arguments that have been growing between them.
This needed to happen. It did. It did. This is the universe hitting the eject button on me and Arthur once and for all. Best friends, tough love. Stop giving the universe and fate credit for everything. You're making a choice. What? We're on this trip, not because of fate, but because we're best friends for 50 years. We show up for each other. Fate didn't bring us on this trip. Our love for each other did.
Love and the wonderful people at Lufthansa.
It was a nice flight.
See, I'm quite a fan of Jane Fonda, but she does always seem to play Jane Fonda.
I swear I thought you were going to say you were a fan of Lufthansa for a second. I was about to say, I saw he was more of a Virgin Air kind of guy. But mind you, I kind of saw Diane Keaton as more of a Virgin Atlantic kind of a traveller personally. But yeah, Jane Fonda, who at this point is in her career can kind of just coast by forever, sort of doing the Morgan Freeman shtick and just playing herself. And in this case, she's like in 80 for Brady recently, or Grace and Frankie. It's Jane Fonda showing up to play as Jane Fonda, which is worth the ticket money. Incidentally, Jane Fonda as Barbarella does feature in the previous movie we were talking about, the documentary about the male gaze, for somewhat obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So she's kind of aware of that, and she's playing on it heavily here. The chemistry is there. The story isn't quite as tight or as fun as the first one. But like I say, the first one was a sort of unlikely 4-star film. This is more of a 3-star, but with some 4-star charm that's kind of carried over from the first movie. It's great to see the gang back together. I say I'm a big fan of this cast. Seeing Mary Steenburgen and Craig T. Nelson together on screen again is just always something that just warms the cockles of my heart to no end, because they played Ryan Reynolds' parents in The Proposal as well, and obviously they were in the first movie together. Candice Bergen gets to do, I'd say, a bit more broader slapstick this time around, although she does get a really weird sequence at a party where they try to get her made up, and she kind of just looks like Brian May from Queen, with a big blonde blowout kind of a thing. And then of course in the middle of it all is Diane Keaton, who just shows up to be awesome. She's second to Meryl is Diane Keaton, isn't she? Like, as far as the Queen spectrum goes, it's Meryl at the top, it's Diane second, and she shows up linen pantsuits in tow, those tuxedo collared blouses that only Diane Keaton seems to know where to find, because I don't think any other woman alive owns any of the outfits that Diane Keaton ever wears, and of course she always looks impeccably dressed at any given moment. And there's a little murderous row of like guest stars that turn up in this. Although my MVP, you and I didn't get to talk about this previously, the guy who steals this, I'm giving the game away by saying guy, the person who steals this movie, and you would never see this coming, is Hugh Quashie from Holby City.
Wow.
of all people, just turns up as the coolest guy you've ever seen in your life. Just turns up, ascot, bit of a cardigan, just turns up being awesome, gets to sing Gloria, just has a ball. And it's one of those Mamma Mia type affairs where no one's really turning up for the art of this. They're kind of just turning up because they know it's going to be a good time. And ultimately, that's what the next chapter of the book club is. Like the first one, it's a good time. It's not as good a time as the first chapter, but the next chapter, good enough. I would welcome a third, happily. And would I watch this one again? Absolutely. When it hits, DVD, download, etc. I will watch this again. I will say my mum, who's 60 this year, my mum would love this. It is about the highest praise I can give this movie, and she would be its target demographic. So, job well done. Another successful round for the book club.
Could we watch the second one without watching the first one, or is it really not worth the effort?
No, you can absolutely watch the second one without the first. Like I said, this is not like the Fast series where you really need ingrained continuity, But with this one, you really can just pick up the next chapter without having seen the first one. Although I would recommend that you do. The first chapter is a better movie, and he's funnier. This is, like I say, it's good, but not as good.
Okay, well, and that's out in cinemas from today as well, isn't it?
From today, so don't walk, run, go have a good time.
Amazing. Well, there you go. There's your weekend sorted if you fancy a movie. Thank you very much, Van Connor. Back next week. Anything? Oh, well, there is something big on the cards next week, isn't there?
Do you know the best part? There's 3 big movies out next week. We only get to talk about 2, so I'm going to have to. And there's one that I'm not giving up, as you very well know.
Yeah.
So there's a choice. I'm going to have to do a Sophie's Choice this next week. But either way, we will most importantly be talking about #TheFambly. Fast X is out next week. I cannot wait. You know how much I've been looking forward to this.
Absolutely. I'll be messaging you when I know you've seen it, asking what it was like as well. So look forward to that review next week. Have a lovely weekend and we'll chat then, Van.
Till the next time, good time.
Thank you very much. Right, let's get the 1975 on. Loving this. This is Old Caroline on BBC Radio Oxford.